inside the nylon here, all right? And then I want to put my knees right on top of them, okay? So that they don't move around while I do the rest of this. This is the method I prefer to use. It gets harder with bigger parachutes. If you jump in packing a tandem, this is definitely the more challenging way, and as you get into like a 210 or 230, also more challenging. You might prefer an S fold. I'm going to show you a sleeping bag roll. So I take the canopy, squeeze the remaining air out, which I don't even have to lay on because I've taken so much air out of it already. I can use my hands with a small press, roll the edges in a little narrower. Just like I would get my sleeping bag nice and narrow before I roll it up. I'm going to take a bite, 6 to 10 inches below the attachment point, the majority of the way up so that I get a good control. And I pick up the whole pack job and I bend it at this point, putting pressure against my stomach and my knees. So I've got counter pressure that I'm kneeling on, and I'm pulling upwards and holding it against me. And I put it in, I use my hands. This takes a little practice, but just like a sleeping bag roll, I get everything in position and I start rolling this downward, keeping this tension in place. Pull the apex out, attachment point out, roll downwards until I get to the bottom down here, and I grab with my fingers and I'll take my knees out and roll it back on top of itself. Now, I pretty much have the shape of the bag, the whole canopy, ready to go in, and it's still none of it in the bag at this point, right? It's pretty square, it's got even distribution of mass everywhere, and it's got line tension from the rig through all the lines, all the way to the top skin the whole way. At no point did I lose tension on the lines, all right? Here's where I would take the bag, and I can actually pick the whole pack job up with a little cross tension between my knee and my hand. Put the bag underneath it, position it approximately center, put my knees on near the grommets on the bag to hold it to the ground. Again, counter tension, always about tension. Get either side of the bag in position before trying to shove it in there, and then use downward pressure, get a bit of the corner in, counter pressure, using my knees, hands, walk it into the bag, start filling up the bag using my knees again, pushing forward until it fills out nicely. Keep my hand on here.
I like that. Probably the nicest packing job I've ever had.
Come around the other side. No, take both hands here, and I squeeze the extra material up into the bag before, push this grommet back a bit, before I roll the bag on top. All right? So now my elastics and my grommets are pretty much touching. I don't have to go stretching them, and the bag is actually closed. Right? I don't have lots of rubber band reaching around nylon. I keep downward pressure. I can pull the rubber band through the grommet. Take a line bite. I'll double these because they're big rubber bands. Put a 2-inch bite on this side. Put a 2-inch bite on this side. And that's about the size of the bites that I would recommend in order to ensure you have a solid bite, not too large, not too small. They get much smaller than this, especially with microline. You have to remember, you have a long one on the outside, a short one on the inside. Very different lengths here, right? See the difference between those two lengths? Because one's on the inside of the turn and one's on the outside of the turn. If the one on the inside of the turn gets shortened up so that it's very little, it can very easily fall out of the bite. It doesn't take much energy at all pulling in this direction to lose control of that. So you have to play to the inside. The insides need to have enough of a bite so that there's space away from the rubber band that's going to stay in place. Yeah. I'm going to go back a step, and I'm going to show you an S-fold for those of you who have a hard time with the sleeping bag roll. Not everybody will be able to do that. So, same point, knees on here, get all the air out, get it approximate width you want. This is where,
Would you have lost any of the folds in the back now that would be critical?
no, nothing's changed right now. I just unrolled the roll.
Yeah, I'm not sure if like the roll in the back would have actually loosened
No,
up.
no, it should be good. So very often we'll see people do S-fold, right? They'll take this whole thing and they'll fold canopy back on itself like such. Make a little S-fold in the bottom here. Now I did this for years. I've done it on reserves many, many times. I've done it on mains many times. It's a little tricky because now we have this bundle of line. There's a real tendency to want to get away from us. The grommet starts slipping out, start getting uneven. The grommets, I'm already losing control here, having a hard time keeping it tight, right? And then I got to take this whole thing and fold it back on itself. It gets even harder. So then I got to come around here. I got to figure out how to take this, measure the right amount, fold it back on itself, and make this S fold, which is a little bit harder to hold on to once it's done to try and get into the bag because of the nature. And look at what's happening with my lines. They're getting all loose and squiggly, and I'm sure you're familiar with this part of the pack job when you're doing it yourself, right? This is the reason I don't prefer the S fold, is because it tends to, as I push down on this, try and keep it stacked up, it tends to create a bunch of loose line in here. I did note some people doing a good, tighten this up a little bit, getting the air out and then putting it in the bag. Anybody do something like this? No?
We usually do, like a lot of people here, they do the top S fold,
Top,
bag that.
and then
Do the top S fold?
Yeah,
So you're doing it how? Doing an S fold like such?
yeah, then bag that.
And then bagging?
Then you can just shove the tail in.
Okay.
That's how I pack mine.
Right, so this helps to get, you're dealing with less material at any one time in the bag. So it's a little easier if you've got space to move your hands around in there.
And you've got everything else still tight,
Yeah. Hopefully.
hopefully.
Hopefully. But here's where I see a problem. When you've got this happening, is that this section where I now push this way, there's a real tendency to lose control of the line tension in here, because what am I doing with lines? Rather than pulling on them from the end, I'm pushing them together,
folding them up, yeah.
right? When you take a line and push it together, you can see what happens. Blows apart, makes a big spaghetti mess. So what's happening inside your parachute when you go like this? Same thing's happening. All those A and B lines in there are going, getting real messy and coming apart. So you can do this, and you can do it pretty neatly. I'll do my best job to demonstrate it here. By keeping tension, counter tension in both directions, so that you don't have a loss of control of tension. Put it in the middle. In the middle or on top?
In the middle.
In the middle. Yeah. You can do a pretty good job of keeping tension, but there's still going to be this point where the line's S-ing back and forth on itself. I definitely, my personal preference is the sleeping bag roll. Right? Grab some bridle there. Get right there. That way there was tension from the grommets through the top skin the whole time, rolling down from the top.
You can still do this with a 210, can you?
You can, yeah, I'll pack pretty much anything like that. Works especially well for velocities because they're very small and they don't take S-folds very well. They're not long enough, so it's hard to make these folds back and forth. You can just do a little roll, goes in a lot easier. Again, push the extra material into the bag, using a lot of muscle strength there, not just laying on it. Get it in there, roll the bag over, put your weight on the top of the bag. You don't have to reef rubber bands, try and get them around and pull them and break them and punching yourself in the nose. Done that? Yeah. Me too.
You look around and see if anybody notices.
Okay, what about this rubber band? Should I be using that?
Probably not.
One more time.
That's your life. You can pack it with that
No,
if
it's
you want.
Gabriel's.
Don't be lazy. Really, I mean, don't be lazy. Don't use rubber bands that are chewed up, have big nicks in them. Take a second, get rid of the thing, put a new rubber band on.